What's up, guys? Welcome to the podcast. I know we haven't done these in a while. A lot of you have been calling for them to come back, so I thought, why not? Let's bring them back. As you know, live streams have pretty much taken the place of podcasts in recent months, but I figure we can do both. So just a few quick announcements first, and then I'll explain exactly what we do with these podcasts and what they are for those of you who have not listened to one before or who are new to the channel. So first and foremost, there will not be a live stream today, which is Friday. This is the day the podcast should be coming out. We will be looking to do it on Sunday or sometime along then. If you want like updates on that, just follow me on Snapchat, which is SimplySoccer08, or Instagram, which is SimplySoccerPro. I usually will give some kind of update on either one of those to when we're doing live streams, if the live stream has to be rescheduled. So essentially how these podcasts work is normally I will pick a topic suggested by you guys and kind of go a little more in depth than I would normally in a regular video or even a live stream. Because in a live stream, typically I will answer as many questions as possible. It's basically a Q&A for you guys, the live stream today. Q&A format where I answer your Instagram questions and then your live questions. So I don't always have that much time to go really in depth on a topic or a few topics. So typically these podcasts will be used in order to go more in depth on topics I think are important and on topics you guys suggest and I think would make a good podcast. So that's kind of the first thing is in the comments after you're done listening to this, or what if you have an idea for a future podcast you want to hear or something, you want something to be explained more in depth, I will, do the best or to the best of my ability, put it in the comments down below and I may select it for a future podcast. Again, this is not guaranteed. However, it is definitely possible because I definitely, for those of you who've listened to the podcast in the past, know that I all the time would select topics that you guys recommended to me. So don't be shy. If you have something you want answered in depth, put it down there in the comments. So because these are questions that are going to be answered in depth, sometimes they will be similar topics to videos I've already done. The reason being is I might want to expand on a certain topic. So you will see podcasts that, have a equivalent video that's like 5-10 minutes or something, because I want to go and dive deeper into the podcast. Okay. So that's kind of enough explanation. So we're back. We're going to be doing these, probably once a week. I want to do them on Fridays again. We'll see. I might do them on Saturdays. But don't worry. Again, follow me on Snapchat, follow me on Instagram, because I will always be trying to update you guys with information on all of this stuff to the extent of when we're doing certain things, so like podcasts and live streams. So if you're not following me on either of those platforms, definitely do that so that you're updated on what we're doing currently on the channel and on other platforms. All right, so today I want to go over a really important topic, and it's something that I've definitely talked about before. I don't know if I've done a podcast on it before. To be quite honest, I didn't check the old podcast to see exactly what is being covered, but that's fine because, as time goes along, I learn more, you learn more. So I probably have more to add to certain topics anyway. So what I want to really go over is what's actually going to help you grow and become a better soccer player, a better footballer, a player that isn't just plateauing or staying in place or isn't seemingly getting better, because we all know players who just year after year, they're like exactly the same. They're a carbon copy of who they were the year before. And, they might look different. They may have grown. They may have even gotten stronger. But as far as play-wise goes, they're exactly the same. And I want to cover how you can avoid that. And also, you've probably noticed players who one year just aren't significant at all. They're not that great. And then the next year, they're like the star player on their team. They've grown so much in such a short amount of time. And yes, a year is a fairly short amount of time in the grand scheme of things, but they've grown so fast in a short amount of time. And I kind of want to speak upon that and how you can start growing in a relatively short amount of time, because a year, although I'm saying in the grand scheme of things isn't a long amount of time, it's a really good chunk of time in order to improve quite significantly if you know what to do. Okay, so that's mainly what we're going to be talking about, because I do get a lot of questions from players, very generalized questions like, how do I improve? It's a very general question, or how do I get better? Or how do I become a good winger? Or how do I become a good center back? And the problem with these questions is they're way too general. I can't, just for future reference, if you guys are going to ask me questions like that, be a little more specific, like what area or what component of playing winger are you struggling with? What area of defense are you struggling with? And all this. And then I can try and guide you towards something, either one of my videos I've already done or content even someone else has done that will help you figure out your issue. Anyway, so let's get into the topic at hand. Why do some players seemingly not get any better? And why do other players get a lot better? And there's many reasons that go behind it, but you'll find it's actually very, very simple. There isn't really a magic pill here. There isn't really like a secret answer that's being kept from you by the elite players or something. It's nothing like that. It's very straightforward. And first and foremost, we'll go over probably what the most obvious of these answers are, and then we'll move along to more intricate, subtle things. But the biggest thing is the player that puts in the most work is obviously going to improve the most. Now, don't worry, that's not going to be the only answer, because I know you probably already know that. And a lot is to be said about what kind of work you're putting in as well. It's not just working hard. There's working hard blindly, and then there's working hard in a clever, smart way, right? Because you could work as hard as, and this is a very important concept, I believe, is you can work hard and dumb, or you can work hard and smart. Hard and dumb is essentially working hard on things that really don't matter. It's like the Pareto principle, how 20% of what you do brings about 80% of your results. And what you want to do in that scenario is hone in on what that 20% is and do more of that instead of doing whatever the useless stuff that isn't contributing to the 80% of your results or whatever. So essentially, to work hard and smart, you want to focus on those things that are actually going to improve you. You want to focus on those things that are going to improve you more quickly. You want to, there's my phone going off. You want to focus on working hard at the right things, because if you work hard at the wrong things and you do it for too long, you'll become good at the wrong things, but you'll also have wasted time that you could have been using to get better at the right things. So I'll give some examples of that in a second as well. So the first component is working hard. One of the most simple ways to tell one player doesn't improve that much and another player does is the difference in work ethic from both. You could have one player who is, pretty good, but doesn't get really any better throughout the season, and then another player who's not as good as that player, but surpasses them as the season progresses. And usually it's down to the work that player's doing. They're probably doing individual stuff outside of their team practices. And just as like a little add-on there, is you need to be doing your own individual practice. Team practice is not enough. If you just go to your team practices, if you're on a team and you believe that's enough to get you to that next level or to make you one of the standout players on your team or that's going to really get you better, it's just not. It's team practices can be fun, it's with friends and teammates and, it's all involved and all that. And you have guidance, which is always good from coaches and everything, but there's not enough emphasis on individual development usually. I'm sure now in this day and age, there are a lot more coaches incorporating that into their team practices. But the fact of the matter is, you got one or two coaches, at least in most teams, especially youth teams, to a group of like 20 players. And, they can't really, and you have like an hour and a half or 2 hour practice, you're not getting the individual attention you need, which means you need to give yourself that individual attention. And what that means is you need to be practicing on your own individually outside of team training. Your only training cannot be team training. And if it is, you're not going to see the results that you want. You might see some, and you probably should. If you're playing, you're going to see something. But what I have found is there is a cap to that. It's just going to team training and not doing your own individual stuff. Now, this changes if you're like at the pro level, probably, because it's their job. It's an everyday for them. So they're getting in the individual training and team training, but it's all kind of a part of the same thing. But if you're like on a youth team, an amateur team or something, you really need to get to a point where you are really, really, really trying to improve yourself individually and not just in team practices. So that's the first one, is how hard is that person working? Are they working outside of just team training? Okay, that's a good indicator. Now, it's not just, like I said, how hard you work, it's what you work on. Um, Now, a common example I use for this is let's say, for example, you want to get better at your shooting and you have poor shooting ability. Um, and let's say you have two practices available to you. You can get your ball and you can take shots on net for a while, or you can go to a wall and take shots. Now, the smart thing to do would be to spend an hour practicing your technique on the wall, opposed to spending an hour practicing on the net. Now, why is this? Because the smart thing to do is the wall, because for a few reasons. One, more repetition. You shoot against the wall, it comes back to you. You shoot against the wall, it comes back to you. You shoot on net, you have to chase, even if you score. If you miss, you got to chase even more. You tire yourself out more. You don't get as many shots in. Repetition is really going to come into play when you're trying to improve specific technique in specific areas, especially when it comes to things like shooting. You need that repetition. You need to feel comfortable with the ball. You need to feel what it feels like to hit a ball properly. And then you need to develop that into muscle memory, commit that to muscle memory so you can do it automatically. So that's an example of disciplining yourself to train smart and hard. You're spending the same amount of time on both of those activities, but the wall practice is much more valuable. Second, let's say, for example, because I'll shoot on net sometimes, I'll take a bunch of balls and practice my finishing on net. Now, there's a way to practice my finishing that would be incredibly beneficial, and there's a way I could practice it where I wouldn't get much better. So here's the difference. If I just go to the field and I just start shooting on net without a purpose, I'm not going to get much better, because if you go to net and just start wailing on the net as hard as you can, you're not focusing and concentrating on your technique, you're not going to improve at all. You might get a little bit of muscle memory if you're hitting the ball correctly sometimes, but it's not really good. You need to have mindful. What's the word? Mindful is the word, but I'm trying to think of a present awareness of what you're doing and concentrating on. Meaning, if I'm practicing my finishing, I don't want to just be shooting randomly. I want to have a specific target I'm trying to hit. I want to be doing a specific technique. I want a specific situation I might be trying to replicate that I would find myself in a game. If I'm just shooting on the net for an hour, it might feel like I've gotten quite a bit of practice in because I've been there an hour. An hour has passed and I've technically been at the field and I've been practicing technically. But it's not going to be as valuable as the hour of fully focused, concentrated training. This is proven, by the way. This is not just me pulling something out my ass and telling you it. This is proven by many studies that fully focused in the moment where you're just focusing on what you're doing, practice is like so much more valuable than just going through the motions. And in fact, it's recommended, according to Anders Ericsson, who wrote the book Peak, which is essentially about optimal performance or peak performance. He goes over how focus training for 20 minutes, I think this is the example he gave, but it'll give you a rough idea of what he's talking about here. Focus training for 20 minutes where you're completely focused in the moment, you're focused on your technique, you're correcting your mistakes, you're fully aware of what your body's doing, the motions you're making, you're not going through the motions, you're fully aware of everything, is more valuable than an hour worth of training where you're going through the motions and you're not really focused. And that's, I think, a really important distinction because to someone who's just watching someone practice, it may not seem like that, but there's a difference between someone who's focused and really focusing and concentrating on a specific thing they're trying to work on, and a player who just goes to the field and starts shooting. Even if it's against the wall, you could be shooting kind of willy-nilly, not working on your technique, not trying to do specific things, lying to yourself about what you're trying to do, or you could go to the wall. And for example, like I can go, okay, I want to work on my contact. I want to work on hitting it with my laces with decent power and getting good contact, hitting the middle of the ball. Then I'll take a shot, and if I don't do it right, if I'm fully focused, I can go, okay, that didn't feel right, and it didn't move in the air the way it should have. So what did I do wrong? And then I'll be like, oh, okay, I didn't lock my ankle, or I hit the side of the ball where I didn't want to hit it. So then I can correct it. But if you're not focused, you don't do that. You just keep shooting and you're not correcting the mistake, where if you were just being focused, you could have corrected it very early on and had a much better training session, staying focused the whole time. This is why it's kind of when coaches tell you to play game pace in your practices. This is kind of one of the reasons I think they're telling you to do that. Because when you're thinking of playing game paced, you're focused on something. Your focus is, okay, I'm going to practice this at game pace. And by practicing that, by being focused on doing that, you're more likely to commit that to muscle memory, which will allow you to play that quickly in games. That's why it's important when you're practicing your skill moves, you're not practicing slowly or lackadaisically or, in a lazy way, in a going through the motions way, because not only will that not benefit you, it actually can hurt you, because if you do that enough times, you start creating the habit of doing it in that way. Okay? So also, just to realize, when I do these podcasts, I'd go off on tangents quite a bit, so just bear with me when I do that. Okay, so that's an example, a couple examples of smart practice versus dumb practice. You could be putting in as much work as in like time that's passed, but it's two completely different results are going to come out of that. Okay, so we're already 16 minutes in. I feel like I should move on to a few other things that will help you be. I almost forgot the initial topic of this one, but will help you grow as a player. Before I'm going to say like the main things before I move on, just so I don't miss them, because I only want this to go on for about 30 minutes. But really, it's going to come down to a few things. Like we just went over hard work, and we just made a distinction between what hard work is, hard and smart work is, and hard and dumb work is. So you need to figure out what are the things you need to be doing to be working hard and smart. And in today's day and age, it's actually very easy to find this information. You can find it on YouTube channels like this. There are many other good YouTube channels you can go to. There's like stuff like Become Elite and Will John, who do amazing instructional videos and will show you stuff like this as well. You can find more information online. You can look up professional training sessions. So you can figure out what the smart way to practice is. There's really no excuse in this like kind of information age to not know, for example, if you want to get good at your shooting, what to do, right? It's only when you start to wing it that you kind of are falling back and not doing what you need to do. It's when you say, you know what, I'll just go to the field and shoot around, that's where you're making the mistake. So if, like, for example, you want to get better at your shooting, look up how to get better at your shooting and watch like, I don't know. I mean, don't spend too long watching. I want you to get out there and actually start doing, because, watching videos is not going to help you. Again, taking action will, but start watching them and go, okay, I want to do this drill and I want to be watching out for this when I'm doing this drill, and you just get all those together and you start practicing those things. And I also said you want to be fully focused while practicing. So that's how you work hard. Obviously, the amount of time you put into your practice as well is going to determine how much you improve. Now, I want to clarify something here, because a lot of players have, I think recently they've given me comments like, if I practice 8 hours a day, how long do you think it would take me to go pro? One, that's not a question I can really answer. And two, that's not even a goal you want to have. I think the issue is too many players are trying to go from 0 to 100 in like no time whatsoever. You need to work your way up to this. If you have not been practicing every day yet, and by the way, I include rest days as working, because rest is just as important. So if you practice 5 days a week and have 2 rest days, those rest days to me still count as practice because they're necessary. Okay. So rest days count. When I say play every day, I don't mean you're doing intense training every day. Or if I say work on your game every day, I'm including rest days in that. Although I do believe in some capacity, you should get some touches on the ball every day, even if it's just juggling for a little bit. But back to the point there, if you're not someone who's been doing that, if you're not someone who's been training consistently, you can't go from 0 to 100. It means you can't go from no hours every day to 8 hours every day. You need to have incremental integrity. And all that means is you need to have faith in the process. You need to do it in increments and work your way up slowly. You can't bite off more than you can chew. Now, that's not to say don't try and challenge yourself. You should do that. But the problem with going from something very little, so let's say you only practice twice a week, to then going to try and practice like hours upon hours every single day, is you're going to get burned out, discouraged, and you're going to stop. you're going to stop. Where if you do it in an incremental way, you start developing the habit. So by the point you get to the point where you're working out 2, 3, 4 hours a day, if you get to that point, I remember I'm including rest days. Once you get there, it's much more committed or habitualized and much easier for you to do it. Okay, so we've gone over working hard. We've gone over I was kind of leaning towards consistency there. So consistency is the next thing that's going to really help you grow. I'm trying to think of the best way to do this because, okay, yeah. So what I mean by consistency is essentially doing the same thing regularly. Usually in my eyes, it's every day, but it doesn't have to be. It can be macro or micro. But for soccer practice, to me, it's consistently sticking with the schedules that you've set for yourself, remaining disciplined and doing what it is you need to do. And through consistency, you start to build what's called momentum, which is going to be huge for your development, because momentum is, the way I look at momentum is, think of yourself biking up a hill. You're biking up a hill and it's very difficult. You're working hard, you're working very hard. And that's kind of like the beginning of when you're trying to develop consistency in a habit. It's very difficult because it's something that goes against who you are right now. It goes against what you're used to doing. So for example, if you're beginning to work out, in the first week or two, you might be getting by just motivation alone, but you start to get in a few more weeks and there's more resistance from your mind. There's more resistance from your body. You're getting sore. You're making more excuses. That's because you're trying to get up that hill. When you get to the top of the hill and you start going down the hill, that's when you start hitting this momentum. Things get easier. It doesn't mean you're working any less, by the way. It does not mean like you're spending less time in the gym and magically getting better. It means that it's getting easier for you to start doing the things that was initially difficult for you. And that's the point you really want to get at. The point where going outside and doing your drills is fun or enjoyable or something that's not hard for you to do and you do automatically. Where going to the gym is just like a part of what you do. That's just you. You go to the gym because you've been doing it for so long and you're getting stronger and you like the results and you've built up this momentum. You're getting past that struggle stage. And whenever you try something new, you will always have this pain period where you're trying to get to that. And it's like up and down as well. There'll be points where you've hit momentum and the momentum might stop and you have to go back up the hill and all that. But you want to get to a point where you're building momentum. And one of the reasons we do things like 30-day challenges is I want you guys to experience what this feels like. So that's why we do those. So like doing certain ball control drills every single day, after a couple weeks, you start to notice results, but you also start to build this momentum by the time you're getting close to the end of the challenge, to where you're seeing great results, to where it's feeling a lot easier to do, to where you are seeing that you're actually enjoying the process. And that's what we want to get you to as a player in general. So one of the best ways, I think, to improve is to experience this. So if you haven't done a 30-day challenge, definitely think about doing that. We have a playlist on the channel that goes over a few of those. So go and try one of those 30-day challenges and you'll experience, if you actually follow through with it, you'll start experiencing consistency and momentum. Consistency to me leads to momentum. They go hand in hand. I don't think you can have one without the other. So I think that's another really important thing for your growth. So we have 7 minutes left. I'm going to do a couple more. And of course, guys, there's so many more things that go into this topic. I'm just giving you some of the things I think is very important. Next, and this is what's going to help you with consistency and momentum, is discipline. And why I say that is because you need to be disciplined in order to be consistent, because there are going to be times when you don't feel like doing it. There are going to be times when you don't want to go to the gym. There are going to be times when you even need to discipline yourself to take a rest day. That's something I don't think we think about enough. Is some days you might want to go, yes, I got to do it. I'm going to, I know I'm supposed to have a rest day today, but I'm feeling good. I should go out there and do it. But you also need to be disciplined there and realize that your body's going to need a rest sometimes. And you need to maybe just do some stretching, or, you need to recover. Essentially discipline. And I heard this recently, and it just made a lot of sense. And, I think it's the best explanation of it I've ever heard. And discipline, and it said self-discipline is the ability, is not the ability to do what you need to do when you feel like it. Self-discipline is doing something whether you feel like it or not. That's what self-discipline is. So even if you don't feel like doing something, still having the discipline to go ahead and do it. So let's say you're getting into the habit of practicing every day or practicing every week, or you've set yourself a new soccer schedule or schedule to follow. And there's just one day you're feeling tired, you're not feeling, up for it, you're mentally drained, and, you have all these reasons, you think, to not do it. The person who's disciplined, who's built up the discipline, does it anyway because they know it's going to be tough, but they know it's going to pay off, right? Sorry about that. Got cut off a little bit, but I believe I was talking. I believe I was talking about discipline. You have to be very disciplined with your training and remaining consistent. Basically, when it comes down to it, again, I don't want to overcomplicate this. I've thrown like a few ideas at you, and of course, there's more that goes into it, more nuanced things, more subtle things. But you guys need to work hard, and you need to be patient to a certain extent. I'm very reluctant in saying that because I feel like if I say that, it prevents people from taking action, or people think that I'm saying don't take action. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying take as much action as you can, do it in a smart way, and be patient as you're doing it. So like, don't expect overnight results because it doesn't work that way. You need incremental integrity. And again, that essentially means kind of having faith in the process, taking those small steps you need to get to that next level, and then taking small steps again until you get to that next level. And again, things like momentum will help you get to those things faster. But the fact of the matter is, you don't do it really in leaps and bounds. I forget. Oh, there's a really good quote by someone who's very successful, and I'm trying to remember what it is. And it's something like success doesn't happen in short spurts or something. It happens in like what you do day by day or something of that nature. And all that means is, incremental integrity. Like I said, it doesn't happen where you just have a lot of success quickly and then there's a period of rest and then a lot of success quickly. It happens that you do and you grind and you work and you stay consistent and you have discipline, and you lead up to that bigger goal. And everyone's goal is going to be different. So for everyone listening to this, your goal might just be, you want to become a little bit better of a player. Your goal might be you want to make your varsity team. Your goal might be you want to make your A team. It might be you're looking to go to college and you're in high school right now and you want to prepare to be a standout player on a college team. You might even want to go pro. Whatever it is, you have to recognize you have to put in the work and you have to be patient. You have to be disciplined, and a lot goes into it. So essentially, I guess more this podcast is, in today's topic, is more of like a wake-up call to just remind you that, it takes hard work, it takes discipline, it takes doing what you need to do day in and day out, and it takes bouncing back even when because you'll have an off day every now and then. I know I certainly do. It takes recovering quickly. So like you have an off day where if you do miss a workout, or you do miss a meal, or you don't have a great day, to be able to have the ability to bounce back and get over that the next day and get right back into routine. Because you'll find, and I've especially found this as I've been throughout my life, as I've been trying to be more disciplined and more consistent, and more, and trying to grow and progress even more, is that there are many times where I have a good run and I break it. And because I've broken it, I'll get down on myself and it will take me a little too long to get back into it, to where now I can usually, if I have a bad day or two, bounce right back and get back into routine because I'm not as hard on myself about it anymore. And that's another good thing to recognize and to do is, if you do make a mistake, if you do miss a day, if you miss a workout, if you break your consistency, the best thing you can do then is just get right back into it, right? The very next day. Don't dwell on your mistakes. Don't dwell on your quote-unquote failures. Just get right back into routine and the process. All right, guys, so that's a lot of information to throw at you. I hope I have given you an idea of essentially how you're going to get better. Again, like when you're thinking about what I've gone over, again, it's not that difficult. It's simple. It isn't easy, but it is simple. Like the answer is pretty simple. It's just not that easy because you do have to be disciplined. You have to execute. You got to find the right routine. You have to keep experimenting and tweaking and progressing. But the answer is simple. It's be disciplined, work hard, be consistent, and all those things. So we don't need to overcomplicate that, and the thing is, if you're not doing this now, if you're not growing as a player, you're not, getting better, just again, incremental integrity, start introducing things into your routine little by little and build yourself up. Because the more you can commit certain things to habits, like going to work out, eating properly, playing soccer more and more, specific drills and things that you're going to do more and more each day, the more this will build. Okay. So, we will do other podcasts, I'm sure, on topics like this where we can go in more depth. I'm probably going to end it there for the information just because we're at 30 minutes and I kind of want to, get a few more. I'm probably going to cover this again in some capacity in the future. Let me know in the comments if there's anything else you want me to cover, another topic for the next podcast, or anything related to what we talked about today that you want clarification on, because I have a feeling that there are a few things I could have clarified on, but just due to time and kind of going off on a few tangents, let's be honest, I didn't get to them. Okay, so let me know in the comments. Now, what we usually do, we always do a hashtag at the end here so that I can recognize who's actually made it to the end, and so you guys can, kind of let me know that you actually listened to this whole thing, which, again, I like it, the players who actually stick around and listen, because to me, that indicates that they are committed to becoming better and learning and improving. So let's think of a good one. I should have these hashtags prepared, but I never do. We'll do not hashtag consistency. We've done that before. I know we have. We'll do hashtag progress. So if you've made it all the way to the end, leave your question or comment down below with hashtag progress. And one, it's much more likely that I will comment back if you do that. Also, if you ask me a question or you have a topic I want to cover, if you put hashtag progress with your topic suggestion, it's much more likely that I will use it, because I know you're someone who actually listens all the way through and actually takes in the content and I hopefully applies it as well. Okay, guys, bear with me with these podcasts. Again, I haven't done them in a while, so it is going to take me, a couple to get a feel for it again. I will be a lot more organized for the next one. I can promise you that. Again, we will be having the live stream most likely on Sunday. If you are not following me on Snapchat or Instagram, do that, because I will be posting updates on that. Snapchat especially, which is SimplySoccer08. Instagram is SimplySoccer Pro, and I will be posting, especially on Snapchat, when we will actually be doing stuff like the live stream. So, you want to be following me on there so you're aware of when we're doing things and you're not missing out. All right, guys, so thank you so much for tuning in to this podcast. Again, leave any suggestions for future ones down below. Also, if you know anywhere, any place I can get cool kind of channel art or background photos for these podcasts, like that I can have on screen as you're listening, let me know in the comments, because I want to start getting some good artwork in there, so that's not just my poorly constructed images that I'm going to, whatever, I don't even know what I'm going to put up yet. But if you have any suggestions or you know someone who can help me out with that, please let me know. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I will definitely see you in the video tomorrow, unless we do a live stream, but definitely come back. Again, follow me on Snapchat so you know. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Remember, hashtag progress with your question or what you want the next episode to be about, or any comment at all. Even if you don't have a comment, put it down there so I know you listened. And I will speak to you tomorrow in some capacity. Take care, guys.